The biggest mistake that they will try to make, that they will make, is that they will try to adapt to whatever is trendy. And so they'll look at the hits, they'll look at last summer's successes, or even the independent films that, you know, and I'm sure that after a film like Boys Don't Cry got out, Hollywood was inundated with interesting little small stories of small town characters in some kind of brutal sexual relationships or whatever. On the other hand, Avatar, of course, films like that, spin loose, imitators, and so they will be more concerned about selling than they will be about creating, and the attitude of often of young writers or wannabe writers for the screen is that there's so much shit on the screen. Surely my shit is better than their shit, and so they want to get made. They want success. They want to be in the movie business, and so they will imitate whatever they see, assuming that because of awful stories like Transformers get made, that they just have to find another toy at Toys R Us and imitate that and build a movie around it. Well, there are degrees of goodness and badness, and so it could be a very subtle difference. But and that one, then you wouldn't know. You just wouldn't. But usually, yeah, you can tell pretty well. Even if they've written 20 screenplays, that doesn't mean that they have mastered, for example, the craft of exposition. I can pick a screenplay up or novel, whatever, within few pages, recognize whether or not this writer has a degree of craft, a mastery of craft, to a certain degree at least, simply by noting how they handle exposition. If they handle exposition beautifully, generally means this is somebody who's really, even though they haven't been made or produced or whatever, this is somebody who has thought deeply about the craft and knows how to draw the reader into their story and not tell them and burden them with exposition too soon and too heavy-handedly, but draw us with curiosity and empathy into the story, and indirectly, invisibly, as it were, we're gathering in the exposition that we know, but we're not conscious of it. That technique alone requires years of practice and trial and error. Generally I can tell by the way in which the writer describes what kind of imagination the writer has, at least visual imagination. I can tell within the first dialogue scene of whether or not this writer, even in an action piece, has any sense of subtext. Or do they write their dialogue on the nose? I mean, there are certain, you know, when people perform in the Olympics and you have judges sitting there, you know, giving them 5, 6, 7, up to 10, and so forth, what are they looking for? They have ways of judging a performance, okay? There's a, you know, some of it is just sensory. You know, there's a quality of relaxation in the work. There's a quality of confidence in the work. There's a quality of centeredness in the work. And so some of these things are sort of ineffable, but you can judge a performance of you know, figure skating based upon these. Plus, you know, did the blade land at a certain angle? Okay, that would get to, okay? And so it's the same thing. Writing is a performance, just like figure skating. And I can read it and have a sense, again, of confidence, of control, of precision, of one thing or another. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that by the end of the work I'm going to be wowed. But I can tell from the beginning of the work whether or not the writer has mastered their craft to a certain degree. But that is one thing. But there's lots of people with superb craftsmanship and nothing to say. Steven Spielberg, brilliant craftsmanship and nothing to say. M. Night Shyamalan, whatever his name is, can really light a scene and really shoot, right? And he's got a cartoon mind, comic book mind. He's got nothing to say. And so, so the mastery of craft is no guarantee overall. On the other hand, you may see people who are still struggling with the craft, but they have passion, they have insight, and they really understand human behavior in relationships or whatever, and or they have some wonderful imaginative ideas about, you know, alternate worlds in whatever genre. And so noting the quality of the craft is no guarantee of excellence, but it's an interesting thing that a lack of craftsmanship and a lack of insight into life seem to go hand in hand. It's no accident that bad writers also have nothing to say. Okay, and that having something to say seems to inspire people. All right, but not necessarily. So that it's not an easy thing necessarily, and you can make mistakes, and you can judge books erroneously by covers, but there are touchstones that you can use along the way that give you a sense of quality versus banality.